The Indiana General Assembly reached the halfway point in their 2025 session, meeting a legislation approval deadline by passing more than 50 bills alone on Thursday. And all the measures that have passed out of their original chamber are now moving to their opposite chamber as lawmakers take a mid-session break. Priority bills passing include the House version of a new state budget and the Senate's property tax relief package. Other notable measures include bills to streamline prior authorization requirements for medical care, establish greater oversight of pharmacy benefit managers, expedite county coroner communications, and incentivize nuclear power development. Our guests from the Indiana House and Senate offered their thoughts on the General Assembly's first half activities on this week's Primetime. And good evening, I'm Bruce Haines. With us tonight is 14th District Republican State Senator and Assistant Majority Caucus Chair, Dr. Tyler Johnson, and 18th District Republican State Representative and Assistant Majority Caucus Chair, David Abbott. And you can join our conversation by calling in your questions and comments. Just use the number that you see on the screen. As here we all are welcoming you to this broadcast. We have Senator Johnson, we have Representative Abbott, Tyler, and Dave. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Let me begin by just getting your thoughts on this very fast, it seems, first half of the session.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around, this is my third session. I'd say it's relatively twice as fast as the last two sessions, even quicker than a short session where things tend to move pretty quickly. We started right out of the gate, which is very different, and hit the ground running. And we had a lot of different ideas to tackle, some big ideas, and I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Dave, how about you?
Well, it was a little different in the House. Todd Houston, our speaker, said we're going to take it a little easy at first and not push it too hard. So the first week, we did not do a lot. We had a session, I think, one day, and then we had committee meetings started to ramp up in the second week, and towards the end of the second week, we hit it full speed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been flying ever since.
Both shoes have dropped. Of course, one of the things that is key to this year is the House's passage of its primary measure, the proposed two-year budget. It's been said to mirror parts of Governor Braun's version as it moves to the Senate. What's your takeaway on the House side from the Chamber's plan so far?
Well, I think we've got a good solid budget. It's balanced. Structurally, we have a surplus, and we also have our rainy day dollars. But our forecast, our December forecast, are showing that we need to cut back a little bit and just be wary of what could happen in the future, especially with federal tariffs and other cost-cutting measures that you're seeing might trickle down to the state. So we've got a watchful eye on that, but yet we're still maintaining a AAA bond rating with a balanced budget, and that's our key. We want to stay that. That's what entices our businesses to come in. That's what helps our economy be strong in Indiana. So.
Yeah. Tyler, the budget includes fully funding the Medicaid forecast, and I recall SB2 is related to Medicaid eligibility. And there are some reforms to the Healthy Indiana plan. You're intimately familiar with what's known as SB2. Where does that stand relative to the budget in this halftime moment here?
Yeah, if you remember last time around, we had a little bit of concern over some forecasting errors in Medicaid. It really wasn't an error as much as it was just rapid growth in some of the programs in Medicaid. And so during COVID, a lot of people that signed up for Medicaid are no longer eligible, or they have kind of grown out of the program. And so we're really asking FSSA to take a hard look at the eligibility requirements and folks that are on it, so we have the finances and the dollars there to take care of the people who really need it.
Senator Mishler says this is a right-sizing move for Medicaid. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I spent the back half of summer looking at this. I actually authored my own bill on Medicaid reform, and then we ended up putting most of those into SB2, and Senator Mishler is our appropriations chair, so the perfect person to help steward us through that, and we're right where we need to be.
Good. It will soon be time, Dave, for you and House members to see what the Senate is sending your direction regarding Medicaid, regarding the property relief package. when those deliveries occur, walking across that hallway, what will you be looking to see on these matters in the coming weeks?
Well, on the especially on the Medicaid, we have to be really concerned with how that's been escalating. Right now, with education at about 47.6% of our budget, and Medicaid is about another 22%, plus secondary education is 9% approximately. You're up into the 75% of our total budget. So I think we're going to be looking for good policy that doesn't add to the budget, but yet we have to maintain Medicare or Medicaid without cutting into, there's a process with the excess that I understand we need to address. And that's going to be a challenge, and it's a halfway point. So we've got a lot of time, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth till we get to that spot where it's manageable, I think is what I want to say.
And when the box arrives with the budget for the Senate to admire and take a look at and analyze and see if the pieces still fit, what are you looking to take from some of that study?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the budget, we're really looking at making sure we're right-sizing some of the programs we have to make sure there's dollars there for things like Medicaid, for the voucher program, things like that. And so we'll just now start taking a look at most of the budget proposals, and Senator Mishler, our appropriations chair, like I talked about, he'll have a lot of ideas of his own, and we'll start discussing those things.
Yeah. One of the bills that has made it to its next step along the way, the Senate Committee on Appropriations passed your bill, Tyler, on prior authorization, Senate Bill 480. You've been advocating for changes to prior authorization for many years. Why?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that was really important to me when I ran for office. I think a lot of times the frustration as a patient is actually getting access to the care that you need and your doctor says you need, and actually you've already paid through your premiums. And so whether it's a blood pressure medicine or MRI or things that are really medically necessary and your doctor says they are, we want to get rid of the headaches that are involved with getting you there. So if your doctor says you need a blood pressure medicine, you show up at the pharmacy and now your insurance company says, well, wait, we don't really want you to be on that blood pressure medicine. Well, your doctor kind of already said that you do. So now they say you can't get it. You got to go back to your doctor. They got to call the insurance company. And now you've got weeks to wait for approval. That just doesn't make sense. So we're trying to add some common sense and get rid of the headaches in this process.
What relationship, Dave, does some of this play with, I think it's 1003, dealing with some medical matters on the House side? Is this the companion bill to 480, or taking a part of 480 into that? Yeah. And this is also part of House priority legislation, so that will now come over to the Senate to see what's going on.
Yeah, we are dealing with increasing hospital costs and especially nonprofits, so that we have a balance there with the cost versus services provided, and realizing that if you're paying the exorbitant amounts of, I can give you an example. There's special bandages that were charged $16,000. After insurance would adjust the premium, the discounts, it was $5,000. Although one of the constituents went out on his own and was able to attain them for $600. Now these are not, the little Band-Aids. These are sophisticated bandages, but it just shows that there's a disparity about the cost, and then what with reimbursements that you get, what the patient actually ends up paying is. This is what we want to address also, is to get that in line. And with nonprofits, we are going to be proposing, it's in the bill, that there would be a 300% over the Medicaid reimbursement rate. If the prices are higher than that, then they would be potentially in line to lose their nonprofit status, which they would be able to earn back, but this would be a deterrent for them to start looking at ways to have better pricing and marketing.
Right. You're watching Primetime on PBS Fort Wayne. We're speaking this evening with State Senator Dr. Tyler Johnson and State Representative Dave Abbott, and we invite you to join us as Jeff is doing on line 3. Jeff, welcome to Primetime, sir. Go ahead with your question or comment, please.
Sure. Thank you for taking my call. In the introduction to your program, you talked about possible, among some other topics, but you brought up nuclear power. And I know Representative Abbott, I believe, is pro-commercial nuclear power up here in Noble County. I think the county government has just gotten off the mark, and they're ready to sort of move things along. And it seems to me like solar is much more feasible, much more timely compared to nuclear. Those kind of projects seem like they never get going, or they just never really pan out. Solar seems much more feasible. Could you discuss and maybe contrast the two, and then how solar is being used in some of the other surrounding counties here to Noble County? Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
Jeff, thanks for checking in. And Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff. I'd be glad to answer that question. I am from Noble County. I used to be a former commissioner in Noble County, so I do understand what they're going through right now. And they did have a meeting where they were going to add another year to the moratorium, but I believe they did vote that down so that they could, GreenX or companies like that or solar could come in and start to entertain permits to put solar fields in. The thing with solar fields, they're a transitional renewable energy source. I really believe your SMRs or small modular reactors are the way of the future. Just think of a submarine. These are very small, they're very safe, they don't melt down, and they're unitized in a way you can spread them out throughout the county, especially where there's power grids nearby. Having meetings with AEP and Indiana, Michigan, your solar is never going to be more than just a couple % of the demand that we need. And with the new data centers coming in, even Cook nuclear plants only producing about 2.4, 2.5 gigawatts of power. These data centers alone are going to require at least that much or more. And that's double what we have now in generation capacity. So, and our coal plants are being retired. I think solar has got its place. It's going to be a transitional. I think the absolute end all of everything is going to be small modular reactors. That's probably an 8-year process, but I think solar's got its place for now, but it's not going to be a solution.
And you're on House Bill 1007, if everyone's scoring at home, but this one is dealing with, in fact, energy generation resources, as it's titled. What does that bill allow for the nuclear power providers to do?
Well, it's going to allow, we're going to try to fast track that process a little bit. That's the main thing. We also got to get more people at the table so that we can get this into the state. But regulations are really what's going to be rough. A new power plant is going to take you 10, 12 years, a full-size nuclear plant. Mm-hmm. We want to focus on the smaller ones because we think we can expedite the process. That's the main thing right now is they are being tested. I think there's one in Indiana that's going to be proposed. It may be in that process right now. But expediting that process is really what we need to focus on, and that's going to take some infrastructure and some regulations that need to be changed a little bit.
Tyler, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, no, I think he highlighted on the expedited process. I think it's really just it's not expedited as much as just getting the government to get out of the way so we're not slowing it down so much. And so that's part of this is the technology's been there for 20, 30 years. We're just now starting to adopt it into real world environments. And so people immediately start questioning the safety and the placement and those kind of things. That'll all still be looked at. But I think he's right in saying that if solar could take another jump in efficiency and production, we might get there, but we're not there right now. So to keep up with demand, nuclear is probably the only option.
Jeff, thank you very much for your call, sir. And if you, anyone else that is so interested, there is time on the clock to connect with our guests here tonight. Just use the number you see on the screen. Tyler, you've co-authored a number of bills in the medical or healthcare field. And this isn't even a complete list. Measures related to pharmacy benefit managers, certificates of public advantage, physician referrals, reimbursement rates. The physician non-compete agreements, which I recall has a history in the legislature of its own. Which of these, or maybe others, are you encouraged to see some progress on this session?
Yeah, we always tackle a number of healthcare bills. And so being the physician in the Senate, I get asked to weigh in on a lot of them. So I like to work on the bills. And I think probably the biggest thing that we're doing is one we already talked about, the prior authorization reform, but pharmacy benefit managers are also another big add to healthcare cost. So it's a middleman in the process. It originally was there to help negotiate contracts for businesses against pharmacies. Well, it's kind of gotten out of its lane, and through both horizontal and vertical integration, it's adding a ton of cost to the system. Most people don't even know they exist, but it's a big issue that we're trying to tackle. I think the form the bill is in now, I added an amendment on second readings. Senator Charbonneau, our health chair, had the bill in great shape otherwise. We just made it probably the most aggressive PBM bill in the country by firewalling off big insurers and the PBMs from pharmacies so that they actually function the way they're supposed to be, and there's not that undue manipulation in the space.
Got it. And Dave, you were nodding in recognition regarding that activity, and of course, a House committee somewhere will be having this to look at.
Yeah, I can't agree more than I can with Dr. Johnson, Representative Dr. Johnson, I may say. But no, they started out, as you say, it's kind of a safety net, kind of a to try to help reduce rates, and it's got to the point where there's kickbacks and there's all kinds of incentives between PBMs, and they're dictating to insurance companies, I believe, when I understand, in a way that pricing is, you think it's the pharmacist just overpricing, and you find out the pharmacist is not the one, it's the insurance company, but then the insurance company has been directed by pricing through the PBM. So it's not something I fully understand. It's not my wheelhouse, but it's enough that it's really a problem.
One of the bills we mentioned a second ago feels like, or let me ask you, are we close to closure on non-compete agreements?
Yeah, I think we're there. There's definitely an appetite to take care of non-compete agreements for physicians. Lawyers have a ban on non-competes because they're an essential good. If you have to have a lawyer, you need a lawyer, right? Well, I think we can call doctors a more essential good than lawyers. And it's really harmed our rural communities the most. Health systems or even some private equity groups are holding doctors accountable to non-competes, and then they just move out of Indiana or the area completely. Well, what good is that? And so there's other ways to contract and do things to hold people accountable for costs that you may have accrued by bringing them into an area. Non-competes are not the way to do it.
Got it. And one other take too, because there was a time, and perhaps it is still with us, where a growing field of need, in fact, was nursing. And the bill regarding licensed practical nurses, is this one, in fact, to try to get supply and demand all where they need to be?
Yeah, so Senator Yoder, one of my Democrat colleagues on the Health Committee, authored this bill primarily, and it's interesting to see as we move education more into high school and realms, there's limited access for those students to get into courses that they can start their LPN. And so it allows them to at least start before they get into college and get some of those prerequisites out of the way, just like you would for an accounting degree or an engineering degree. It makes a lot of sense to get those done early. You still have to meet all the requirements once you get to the program, but it allows you to take some of those courses earlier.
Yeah. It made me smile to find, in preparation for tonight, that both of you gentlemen are on at least two bills together, and one of them in the House dealing with county coroners, where Dave, you are the author, and Tyler, you're the Senate sponsor. Dave, tell me what House Bill 1194 seeks to do here.
Well, it was brought to me by the Coroners Association, and it's to clarify some language, first of all, that was passed 2 years ago for coroners. There's when you have an incident where, let's say, just take for example, I'm in Noble County, there's an accident, but yet they're airlifted to Fort Wayne, say to Parkview, that would be and they pass away in the emergency room. That would be the county of the death. So the process right now is that where the coroner in that county would contact the coroner in Noble County in this instance to decide who's going to pay for the autopsy, if there's a need for the autopsy. Well, if they agree there is, then the county where the incident happened would pay. If they don't agree, there is no provision in that in statute. So we're clearing that up. And then there's some billing back and forth issues that are in question on how that's done. There's been some issues where one corner will go ahead and bill anyway, bill the other county without their knowledge, and there's untimely responses back and forth. The main thing we're trying to do is protect the investigation that a coroner is going to do. It needs to be done in a timely manner. And blood draws are another issue that when they're admitted into an emergency room or maybe into the hospital, they need a fresh blood draw that's kept more than 2 or 3 days. In case they're released or they get admitted into the hospital, then what's going to happen is if they pass then, the blood sample's gone. So we need to preserve that and keep it for a longer period of time. We're suggesting 21 days.
Mm-hmm. Anything further on that one?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a neat way to highlight the process is that he's got that bill in pretty good shape coming out of the House and has asked me to work on it and look at it further, and that's the world I live in, right? So we take care of those patients, and unfortunately sometimes they pass away and sometimes it's not natural causes. So the coroners want to take a look at things further. We got a great coroner here in Allen County. We'll talk about things and the process and understanding the process of how we draw blood and where we hold it. Those are big things that we still need to talk about.
A rather unique bill, and I'll ask you to give an overview, is the one where you are the author and the representative is a sponsor. In that regards, anatomical gift inquiries.
Yeah, so this bill is interesting because, you know, when you go to get your driver's license, you can say, hey, I'd be interested in organ donation, tissue donation, those kind of things. Well, the state has millions of other opportunities to do that. And for state employees, we don't necessarily have that direction when you go to sign up for something or those kind of things. So that bill's asking that a lot of those employment opportunities and when you sign on as a state senator or a state rep, that they ask you, hey, are you interested? And so it's a kind of an interesting bill from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Dave, anything you want to add on that one?
I can speak from experience on that. I had a kidney transplant just coming up on 3 years ago. I was very fortunate. My son was the donor. That was a living donor. But I was told I was going to go on to dialysis, and I could have waited a number of years, which my health would have deteriorated and would have completely changed my life with dialysis a number of times a week. So I think it's really important that we reach out to more people and give them that opportunity to donate an organ. And that's what the bill's trying to do. We're trying to reach a larger audience. We have about 24,000 employees. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to reach out to them and give them that opportunity. You can already do it with your license. You sign on for a BMV, the license, you can sign on there. We're just providing more opportunities so that we can get more people to donate.
Mm-hmm. Outside those bills that we've had a chance to speak of so far in the show, are there other pieces of legislation you are connected with you'd like to mention? And you have each about a minute apiece in which to do that. Yeah,
a minute's not enough time for property tax reform discussion, but that's a big piece, yeah. SB1, a big piece of Governor Braun's, which personally I'd like to see us move away from property taxes, but that's a bigger discussion that we can have in one session. And but they've got a good discussion on the House side now that we moved the bill over there to figure out where to land to help give people some relief from elevating property taxes.
Mm-hmm. Dave, how about you, sir?
Well, I have a bill on squatters' rights, property rights, really, for someone that has. They go to Florida, they come back, and there's someone living in their home, and it's a problem that's starting to grow. We're trying to address it and get ahead of it before it becomes a problem we have to try to resolve, after it's happened. And this will provide an affidavit process where a property owner can go to their local law enforcement or their sheriff, sign a document testifying basically under perjury that they are the owners, there is no landlord-tenant relationships. And what this does, it expedites a process that an eviction process or a writ of assistance would require. It could be multiple times into court. It could take days, weeks. This could happen within hours if this bill is to pass. It did not get a hearing, or I shouldn't say it didn't get a hearing. It didn't get passed through in the House, but there's another bill, Senator Gaskell's bringing it over. I'm co-sponsor on that bill, and we're going to address that.
Got it. So I have to address this. It is not often that this program has two lawmakers, each of whom is Assistant Majority Caucus Chair. I think it's like the slot machines all came up with the same icon. Tyler, tell me briefly what it is that title implies. What are the associated responsibilities?
So Senator Holdman is our caucus chairman, somebody that we elect as a caucus. My job is to assist him in all those things. Pretty easy answer, but no, it's organizing the caucus, making sure information gets out, make sure questions get answered, And when we're in that caucus room, making sure that everybody's called on and identified to get their questions answered.
And
It's the
on the
same
House side?
process in the House. You know, it's like a vice president. You're there when you're needed, but you also stay attuned with the caucus chair. They run the caucus for the most part. And you listen and learn a lot, and you're there if they need them. And if something would happen, then you would step up for that position.
Well, I have listened and learned a lot, and I thank you both for assisting me in those positions and with your work in the legislature. We have been speaking tonight with Republican State Senator Dr. Tyler Johnson and Republican State Representative Dave Abbott. And for all of us with Primetime, I'm Bruce Haines. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Good night. The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
The Rogers Company has been conducting business in Northeast Indiana since 1944 as Rogers Markets and now as the Rogers Company with commercial property and real estate development. Pleased to support local not-for-profits and PBS Fort Wayne. The Regional Chamber of Northeast Indiana advocates for world-class infrastructure, a competitive business climate, 21st century talent, and rural investment. One region, one voice. NEINadvocates.com. Purdue University Fort Wayne will host Marcus Collins, cultural scholar and professor, Thursday, February 27th at 7:30 as part of the Omnibus Speaker Series, inspiring fresh and diverse thoughts. Details at pfw.edu/omnibus.